when you partner with the right people, and you make the product look craveable and delicious and exciting, that you can create business impact, in the course of 24 to 48 hours. And that's effectively what we did. I think what we do a really good job of is trying to put our food in situations that other consumers can see themselves in, or at least can consume and be entertained with. And that then allows us to connect that purchase opportunity from a moment of hilarity to hopefully a moment of deliciousness.
This is the Snarketing Podcast, for marketers by marketers, talking to marketers with just a touch of snark. Now, here are your hosts, Valerie Vespa and Matt Worst.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Snarketing Podcast. I am one of your two co-hosts, Matt Worst, and with me as always,
Valerie Vespa.
Hi, Valerie. Welcome to episode 5. We've made it this far.
Yay!
I'm excited for this episode because we are talking to someone that I have known and actually worked with for a spell, but not for many years. And he's since gone on to do even greater, more incredible things working with some fun brands. I'm excited for you to meet him and talk with him. Gabe Alonso. He is the VP of Digital at Pollo Loco.
He has quite an extensive background at some big brands. I'm excited to hear from him.
And he's just a really good person. So I am not sure that he actually fits the bill of like borderline, snarky marketer, but he's got it in him. So I think it's going to be on us to pull a little bit from that deep reservoir of past trauma, but also future expectations.
It's funny. Do we just attract very kind people who are willing to deal with our snarky ways?
I think what this podcast is showing me is that you and I are definitely on the snarkier end of things, but others who are talented and have a great background and potential and creativity and strategy and connections in the space, they may pull it out of us.
Perhaps.
But we're definitely, I think we're finding a voice here, which is fun. But it's human, it's authentic, which is more than I can say for a lot of the content I've seen recently that is AI generated or machine learning oriented, and it's a hot topic. And we've talked about it here, but now writers are going on strike in Hollywood. Actors, the Screen Actors Guild is on strike, and it's actually having an impact on our industry already.
We're very concerned. As you know, I work for Outfront Media, and we do get a lot of entertainment business, and it is a big red flag for us as far as what the second half of the year has for us.
And similarly, I work with influencers who can't promote certain projects produced by struck companies, and that includes Disney, Paramount, Warner Brothers, Netflix, Apple, Amazon, and those are some legit platforms where content is being published. Influencers can't go to Comic-Con. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah. It's and also, like, I have a friend who holds a camera during filming during big shows, and she wrote something about, just down to even catering at, live events. It's affecting many livelihoods that, just, I don't think people realize the scale.
Have you seen, there was an app that was created and it produced some content. I'll tell you a little bit about it if you haven't seen it, but a company called Simulation, which used to be the Fable Studio guys, they introduced an app called Showrunner. It's an AI capable of creating a 22-minute generative AI TV episode. And it basically just reads and looks at previous episodes. So they did one for South Park, and the episode it created, and it was not for public consumption. They did it just for themselves to show, but it's actually incredible. The content is really good. And I think this is scaring a lot of people because it comes with a story and a script and voice recording and animation. So if I'm SAG and I'm an actor or a producer, I have reason to be scared.
It's depressing. I think of films and shows and even everything that these creators are doing. I think it's an art, and when you bring a lot of the science into the art to things, like it saddens me. You know, I don't know. It's upsetting.
Well, I think there are going to be some legitimate challenges that need to be resolved, but the fact that this is already having an impact on both of our businesses, I had clients reaching out to me already this week saying, like, what can we do with this creator or this influencer? Because they can't mention the show that they work with, right? They just have to kind of create content that is very guardrailed. And the answer is yes. Like you have to be thinking about it. So it's that on top of other just creative changes happening in our industry as the economy is changing and constantly evolving. We've seen pullbacks on some budgets. We've seen some of the purpose-driven content now take a backseat to very performance-driven content. I don't know if you're seeing that as well.
Well, there was like a slew of like layoffs in the DEI space, those that were like specifically aligned to do work within an organization on that, and that was really upsetting, and that got a lot of press.
Yeah, it's like as
Um,
soon as the economy, like as soon as you have to make some priority decisions, the things that you were so committed to that we all believe are important, those are the first to go. And
but
I,
like going back to the entertainment thing, like actually, the guy who owns A24 Productions,
mhm.
they and another couple of production houses just got acceptance for several smaller films and shows because they are playing by the rules that SAG and etc have put forth, and so there are companies that are moving forward and trying to be fair. So where does this fight end for the bigger production houses and networks? Like, are they going to get on board, or is this really going to cause like massive changes to our space? So I don't know.
Well, what I think we should do is let's jump in and talk to Gabe, who is working with influencers and creators. He's working in and around the Hollywood environment. He actually lives in LA. I'm curious to hear what his take is on AI, among many other topics. So put your thinking cap on, put your snarky voice on, Valerie. I know you have it in you. And let's talk to
I
Gabe.
can't wait. I can't wait.
And now for the main event. He's a little bit sweet, a little bit spicy, and the right mix of snarky. Let's meet Gabe Alonso, Vice President of Digital at El Pollo Loco.
Welcome, Gabe, and thank you for joining us here on the
Thank,
Snarketing podcast.
thank you for having me. I'm excited.
And you may or may not realize this, but as we are in the first half dozen or so of episodes, you are our first guest coming from the West Coast.
Oh, okay.
So we are not sure if you are on a 3 hour delay or if this is going to work properly, but this is an experiment for all of us. But what is interesting is you are not from the West Coast originally. You relocated. You made a conscious decision to
Mhm.
pack up and leave the East Coast and go to the West Coast. What made you do that? Was it for love or for job?
It was definitely for job. I think if you had asked me in my early 20s, would you ever live in LA? Actually, people did ask me in my early 20s, would you ever live in LA? And I was vehemently against it. I was like, I'm a New Yorker for like just for the rest of my life. This is it. This is when people can, once you've made it if you've been in New York for 10 years. That was like my I don't
So
know,
true.
finish line, I guess, or my first finish line. And I made it 7. Um, so close enough, I guess. And I'm born and raised in Jersey, so like I went to Brooklyn a lot as a kid, it's where my family was. So I feel like I can call myself a New Yorker. My wife doesn't think I can, but I call myself a New Yorker. Yeah, but I left because I got an amazing opportunity to go to Nike, and it was just one of those things where uh, I remember having this conversation with my dad outside of the 40/40 club because I was there for a colleague's bachelor party, and I had gotten the call and this is really weird, but it's like very present in my mind. And I was like, Dad, I think I'm moving to Portland, Oregon. And he was like, excuse me? I was like, yeah, I
Oh.
think I'm leaving New York. And I was like, how can I say no? And it was just one of those opportunities you just gotta kind of grab and go with it. So
It's kind of like people who like don't accept their acceptance to Harvard. It's like I just don't. What are the probabilities of like people not going to Portland when they get an invite to go work at Nike? It's
exactly.
zero.
It has to be right, and so I mean, especially me. I grew up an athlete. It was one of those things where you felt like you had to earn the right to wear Nike, right? You had to be good enough. I don't know, like it's just one of those things. And so
Absolutely.
to be chosen to go work there was an honor, and
Wait, so you're an athlete? What sport?
I was. I don't know if I still am, but I guess well, I guess by Nike terms, I have a body, so I am an athlete still in some way, shape, or form. But yeah,
You're
I
in their
played
target demographic of everyone breathing.
exactly, exactly. It works well. It's a good audience segment. I played baseball for 15 years. That was my key sport, and then I also
Oh
played soccer
wow.
and basketball. But baseball was my one true love. Yeah.
Oh, are you still a New Yorker fan?
Oh yeah, still very much a Yankee fan. I debated wearing the cap just to needle Matt a little bit, since he likes the folks on the other side of the city. But yeah,
I've learned to be tolerant and accepting of all sports fans as I've gotten older because petty rivalries, um, they don't work as well as you get older. I
sure.
just maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe you feel the same way forever about anyone who ever worked at Adidas, but I don't know. It's good to
I
be.
feel like my passion for ensuring that they don't do well is greater for the Red Sox than Adidas. I think Adidas, rising tide lifts all boats. Everybody's in sport, wearing cool stuff, awesome. But the Red Sox, ah, as long as they stay last in the AL East, I'm good. You know.
So that's an
And
interesting dichotomy though between a marketer and a sports fan. But you're talking
Yeah.
to Valerie, who grew up where?
in Boston.
So I will be the bridge here and maybe get us back on course because, as now a West Coaster, Gabe, congratulations on your move a decade
Thanks.
ago. But you are now in a position with what I believe is an incredible company. I love what you do, I love what you are all about. But interestingly enough, El Pollo Loco, and please forgive my Spanish pronunciation, but the company owns or operates like hundreds of restaurants and franchised owned or company owned, but entirely in the southwestern United States, right? And for those who haven't yet necessarily had an opportunity to eat or dine in one of your establishments, can you tell us what the food is, what the vibe is, who your customer is? Because it wasn't you growing up as a New Yorker.
No, it was not. El Pollo Loco is a Southwest regional fire grilled chicken restaurant, famous fire grilled chicken. We operate just under 500 restaurants, and our claim to fame is marinating our chicken for 6 hours in a delicious citrus marinade, and then cooking it for 55 minutes over an open grill. And so if you come into our restaurants, it's very performative and that was purposeful. So you can see that the food that you're about to buy or purchase or eat is being made with love and craft and care and frankly over time. And so there's a certain level of when you come into our restaurants, you should feel like you're having a home cooked meal because it's certainly being taken care of that way and prepared that way as well. And yeah, we've been around for I think just over 40 years, 1980, born in Sinaloa, our original co-founder, and then he brought it over to LA. So, one of the things I like to say about us is that we're born in Mexico and raised in LA. And that's very much like a lot of our audience, and in terms of our core audience, right, where they are, family, generally Latino in descent, but obviously also a lot of, general market consumers who love our chicken. And then our aspirational consumer is almost the opposite. And when we think about that younger Gen Z, young millennial, where they might be raised in LA or born in LA, excuse me, but raised by Mexico in terms of the culture and what they had at home. And so for us, we see it as a very interesting opportunity to lean into our heritage, and really lean into this resurgence of Latino culture, and in particular, this reclamation that we see happening in LA around Mexican culture with, designers like Belladonna and Paisa Boys and Viva La Bonita. There's all these incredible young entrepreneurs popping up that are reclaiming their Mexican culture and putting a new spin on it. And we're hoping to kind of be at the center of that.
What's your favorite dish there? What's your favorite
My
dish there?
my favorite dish. Oh, I mean, so I'll answer this a couple different ways. Um, One of our most popular dishes is the tostada. So the tostada salad with chicken, you gotta get it with chicken. It is always a crowd pleaser, and it's absolutely delicious. So tostada is like that, like taco shell base, and then you have
Yes.
your incredible salad with our amazing chicken on top, and then a little creamy cilantro dressing that everybody loves on top of it. It's absolutely delicious. Um, for me, I am honestly right now. I feel like I kind of love whatever we have in the market at the moment, just because it's absolutely delicious. But our double chicken chop salads that just came out are just incredible, and
How
they're
many
not
times a
too
week are you eating in one of your restaurants?
at least twice.
Okay.
Yeah. It's so good. Like it's almost like I mean I don't have to cook because it's just phenomenal chicken. And I'll even go as simple as a couple chicken breasts, some Spanish rice, maybe some broccoli, and it's a phenomenal healthy meal. It's great.
What I find fascinating about your role as the digital lead is that food itself is such an in real life experience, right? You literally have to be there to eat it.
Hmm.
Yet the ways that marketers think about moving consumers and different demographics down the funnel, which not to be confused with the gullet, which is how food moves down, uh, there are a number of different ways that you can connect with and reach a consumer, and you've already talked about the different audiences. But what is your role? What are your priorities? How do you think about this consumer in a way that connects the digital and the real life?
Yeah. So digital kind of spans a lot in our group. So I oversee social web, CRM, loyalty, influencers, as well as PR. And so while I am digital, I almost consider myself more the consumer experience, which does span kind of IRL and URL. And a lot of how we're able to bring our food and culture to other folks is frankly how we work with influencers in particular and some of the content we create. Over the last 18 months or so, we've had some really great wins across content, across influencers, and as well as experiences. So, starting as far as a year ago, when we first launched Birria, so I believe we were one of the first, if not the first, QSR brands to launch shredded beef birria. Um, we kicked it off. The sales mix was about 1%. We were like, oh man, what's going on? And then we unleashed our TikTok campaign. It was our hashtag Dip and Drip campaign, where we partnered with a slew of influencers on, how to eat your food. You dip it in the consomme, you take a big bite. It's messy, it's delicious. And in about, I think it was in within a few days of launching our TikTok campaign, we went from 1% to 8.5%, in terms of mix for the birria product. And to me, that just shows how, like, when you partner with the right people, and you make the product look craveable and delicious and exciting, that you can create business impact, in the course of 24 to 48 hours. And that's effectively what we did. And we've seen a lot of that happening. Heck, it's happening right now with the double chicken chop salads, partnering with Yuri La Maspeya, who's famous for her Kardashian family skits, and they always did a little salad shake. And our whole insight for the double chicken chop salad was around, shaking the salad, and that's how everybody puts the dressing all
So
over it.
good.
And we partnered with her, and she did her whole Kardashian, skit, but with our food at the center of it. So I think what we do
Oh.
a really good job of is trying to put our food in situations that other folks other consumers can see themselves in, or at least can consume and be entertained with, and that then allows us to connect that, you know, that purchase opportunity from a moment of hilarity to hopefully a moment of deliciousness.
Well, key to TikTok is a combination of education and entertainment. I
Hmm.
find the educational videos sometimes perform even better on TikTok than you'd think. Teaching people how to eat food is not something that you might intuitively think as a creative or a strategist is the way forward for a brand, but it's working for you guys. So,
Yeah, it's interesting. It's because I would say we're not even necessarily teaching you like how to eat. Everybody knows how to eat Mexican food. It's almost like we're trying to create rituals, and that's kind of what I've been talking to my team about. Is what are our rituals? What are the different ways that people hack our menu or put or eat our food or rip the tortilla and dip it into different things, right? It's like the idea that, you know, when you finish an Italian meal, you always grab that last piece of bread to sop up the last, bits of the tomato sauce or whatever, right? Like those are the things that we can then create um, our own sort of cultural cachet around and start to really rally our community around.
One thing I noticed you had posted about was that you recently launched a loyalty program, and I'm like fascinated by brands kind of launching these new programs, and more so about like how you go about designing the plans for that. Like how did launch go? Um, Challenges ultimately, like I'm sure that it's been successful because you have such a huge fan base. So do you mind sharing kind of like what that process was like and
Yeah.
how it's going?
Yeah, sure. So we've had a loyalty program for some time, and because of that, we it was due for a bit of a revamp. And so when I joined last year, this was effectively my core remit was okay. You're relaunching the program, and you're relaunching the app. And so we did a little bit of research, tried to figure out, okay, what are the expectations from our consumers nowadays? We knew that what we had wasn't necessarily not working, but we wanted to add a little bit of something extra, zhuzh it up a little bit, as it were, to be able to start bringing in a newer consumer, right, a younger consumer. And so we knew digital experiences in particular are core to how young consumers now engage, and really it's an expectation on brands. So we knew we had some work to do. So what we did is we looked at some of the big brands out there, and in particular, folks like McDonald's who have tiered programs, and we went from a points earned currency to a points unlock redeemables program. So effectively, now with every purchase, you earn a set amount of points. Those points then add up, and you can now redeem them for three different tiers of redeemables. So we I think we have three tiers now, and each have about 3 to 4 redeemables inside of it. So in terms of the variety of stuff that a consumer can choose to use their points on, it's greater than ever before. And what's great about the program too is that we also have member tiers. So we have Pollito, Pollo, and Pollo Loco. So Pollito is the lowest tier. That's the smallest Pollito. Yeah, they're very tiny. And then as you earn more, you become a Pollo and then a Pollo Loco. And the higher up you go, the faster you earn points. And that's sort of our way of giving you a little bit more for being a part of the familia, right? And so the more you do with us, the better it gets. The more you earn, the more you can get back. And so, it's never easy launching a new program, let alone a digital product. And so I think we were using a white label product from Punch, which is our loyalty platform, loyalty provider. Um, and I think there's been some uh, realities that folks who've not done digital products before are like, oh, okay, so now this needs to be um, maintained. So and like things just don't get fixed anymore, and now we need extra budget for new development opportunities, and we're getting a lot of feedback because things didn't work. It wasn't a smooth launch. I'll be very honest. It was not a smooth launch, and on multiple fronts. But the team rolled
well,
with the
that comes with
punches.
innovation though, right? Like as you
Yeah.
Yeah.
introduce new things, I've known you for a number of years. I've always known you to be innovative and both trying things that may or may not have existed before or may not have existed in a specific vertical, I mean, I know you get excited about that from a creative perspective. You own an NFT that one of my kids created, right?
I
So,
do.
and I don't know if your program is on blockchain or not. I will tread very carefully as someone who has spent a lot of time talking about that previously. But
Hmm.
are there things that maybe people may not be talking about yet, or just starting to talk about, that we should be keeping an eye on as someone who is innovative and has his finger on the pulse of where technology, creativity, and marketing convergence are happening?
It's a great question. I'll say on the Web3 side of things, we were really excited about it a year ago, and I think we're all kind of waiting for where that'll land, at least for us at the moment. Being in the QSR space, there aren't as many brands being as innovative as you would think. I think, especially from a loyalty perspective, they're a little far behind. So, I look to my previous retail experience, other retail brands, to really understand how we can bring things in like loyalty and innovation into what we're doing, to better serve our consumers. I'll say, for us, or at least for me, the two biggest kind of technologies out there for me are AI and machine learning. And I feel like that's just kind of obvious with all the conversation happening. But we've already been using machine learning for a while, to provide offers and communications to our members. And so we use
Just
AI
optimizing from a CRM perspective and
optimizing
data
from a
around
CRM
your
perspective. Yep,
customer. Yeah.
exactly. So we have propensity models around product and purchase behaviors, et cetera, channel, to best serve them. And I think AI
Sure.
is going to be very interesting for us. Less so on, hey, we're going to have AI at the drive-through, though. I mean, that could happen. I know there are brands that are doing that already and testing that. But I think more in how we best serve, say how we can create different experiences from a communication perspective. I mean, we have our agencies using Midjourney to create animatics and storyboards and things like that. So I see AI more from a creative perspective, less than operational.
I wanted to get into a little bit of your background because you've worked for such iconic brands like MTV, Nike, Activision, Pepsi, just to name a
Wow.
few.
That's some good
I
ones.
I
They
know.
are. I've been very lucky.
So so are there any, like, looking back at your tenure, like, are there any like common threads having worked for these companies? Like, were your learnings from each sort of supportive in the roles that you had as you continued on your journey? Like, I don't know, to kind of speak to those experiences and how they've kind of taken you where you are today.
Yeah, I love that. To be honest, I think at MTV, so I wanted to go to MTV because I wanted to be in the music industry. Like my dream at the time was I wanted to be an A&R guy. I wanted to find bands and like show the
Yeah.
world all this amazing music. That was my dream. Um, I mean, I I did have frosted tips in high school, so I was practicing. There you go. Um, um, and so when I joined MTV, it was kind of, I graduated in 2007, just kind of right before everything really
Oh
hit
wow,
the
yeah.
fan. So I got lucky and I got in at MTV. I had interned there in college. And I, in retrospect, it was like the best possible thing I could have done. I was in production, so I worked in music events and specials. I worked on the VMAs, the movie awards, a ton of live to air events that are like iconic now. And I just learned how to become an adult. Like I know that sounds weird, but I did, and like suddenly I was responsible for other people, not just myself, which was interesting. I was an assistant, I was coordinator, I was responsible for other work. And I don't know, can I curse on this? Like just no, not like too cursy, but like can I? Okay, cool. Well, I'll just say like I just learned how to like get shit done. Like, and I think
Yeah.
that was so crucial. I have so many stories being backstage. You're 5 minutes to air, and they're like, so and so's not going to go on stage unless you do X, and I'm like, okay, let's do X. Let's just make it happen. I mean, I've created four walls like out of like pipe and drape because somebody didn't have a dressing room, and I've, like there's like all these little things. I have a great story that I probably can't tell if it's being recorded around the 2009 VMAs when Kanye went on stage for
Oh yeah.
on Taylor Swift, and so I'll just say this: I called the car that picked up Kanye and his entourage from
Wow.
Radio City, and so I saw a lot.
Wow. Wow.
I saw things I shouldn't have seen, Matt. And but it was great. But so, anyways, like I think MTV sort of set me on this path of like you just got to figure it out, and you just have to make things happen. And then, frankly, when I joined Matt at 360i right after that, I mean, we were all figuring it out. Those are the early days of community management, right? And then as I really started cutting my teeth in social and digital, that's sort of been what's ultimately been the thread throughout all my roles. I've been in either social, editorial, or strategic roles really ever since 360i. So that's why I say like MTV kind of gave me the culture bug and taught me how to be an adult and just make things happen. And then frankly, it was really 360i that set me on the path that I'm on now around cutting my teeth in social digital and then having that really end up being that thread throughout my career.
Well, I love that you mention it because that stint that you had in between big brand and then agency and then big brands again. Can you tell me the top 10 reasons why you will never go back to an agency again?
Top 10 reasons?
No, maybe 10
Uh,
is too many. All joking aside, would you
well,
consider it
like
or I I mean,
I don't.
you kind
To be
of you
honest,
kind of
I don't.
ghosted there.
To be honest, now that I've been brand side for so long, um, agency life is interesting to me. Look, and this is not saying that I'm leaving up Pollo Loco anytime soon. I just want to make that very clear. I'm very happy where I'm at. However, um, I think as I've gone in my career, I've also been able to realize what I like to do more, and where my focus is, and the idea on kind of building strategies that lead to cultural experiences or cultural impact is kind of where I'm continuing to lean. Certainly in the last couple of years, or the last couple roles, excuse me. And so, whether it's a brand that allows me to continue to do that in my future, or whether it's an agency that I can do that on behalf of brands, I wouldn't, just throw that option out for my future. Who knows? I'm kind of open at the moment, but I'm enjoying right now being able to lean in on into culture, into strategy, um, and, and put a point of view together. So.
I mean, like just going back to your point about like seeing an 8 or 7 or 8% lift in sales from like hiring a bunch of influencers to do some videos. It's just like showing how our communities and our new consumers are shifting so in such an interesting way. So I don't know. I just it's true. Like there's just a
The
desire
one
for
thing I'll
that.
say about that though, right, is we caught lightning in a bottle. Like it was, we were at the top of the kind of birria zeitgeist. If you live in LA, now there are food trucks everywhere.
Hmm.
And other brands have done birria before or already. And so, I think for us, it's okay if we can hit the jackpot once and we decide to do it again like we did this year. What do we do to make it a little bit different? What do we do to make it bigger? And so, I think for us, the name of the game is we can't expect to do the same thing and receive the same results. We gotta keep innovating ourselves and pushing ourselves. I think that was a bit of a learning for us this year.
So, like in that vein, what if through your tenure, like what was your favorite project or campaign that you worked on and why?
Throughout my career or so far at
Yeah.
EGL in my career? Ooh, oh man, I've had the pleasure of working on a lot of stuff, but maybe I'll cater to Matt here a little bit. I do think the most insane project I've ever worked on was the 100 Days of Daily Twists. Also, because I still have a chip on my shoulder because everybody gives Oreo credit for the dunk in the dark, and it's really everything we did that summer that made that dunk in the dark possible.
Muscle
So
memory
that's
creation. That's right.
yeah.
Habit
So that's
formation.
man, we were dunking in the dark for 100 days straight the summer before, and it was absurd. And my little claim to fame was I wrote the copy for the Gay Pride Oreo that went viral. And so
Amazing.
the story behind that is Matt. Do you remember the story?
Of course.
Yeah.
Are you talk?
So
Yeah, well, I think the story you're about to tell about why that almost went south.
yes, yeah. So we did an Oreo cookie for Pride Month, and it said "Proudly support love." That was the copy that we wrote, and we targeted to the U.S. only. You could somebody reported it, right? and Facebook took it down because as soon as somebody reports a piece of content at Facebook, this is 10, 11 years ago, they take it down, they review it, and then they put it back up. The problem is they reviewed it and they said, oh, there's nothing wrong with this. And it defaults to the targeting of your page, which is,
Global.
and so the the cookie that should have been targeted to the U.S. only, purposefully, right? Because we know that the whole world is not necessarily in the same place with
Not as
LGBT rights.
progressive, not as tolerant, right? There are certain regions,
Exactly.
certain areas around the world where it is not
Yep.
accepted,
And so
unfortunately.
overnight, it went from US only to global. And I
Oh
woke
no.
up to an absolute
Oh no.
chaos. And there was like, "What'd you do?" And I'm like, "I didn't do anything. I swear to God, this is targeted." Like, it was insane, but it took the world by storm. I mean, we were on multiple late night shows. I think we were everywhere. It just showed the power of how, man, like the right piece of content hits the right vein, and it could go viral. And to me, that's still one of my most proud moments because even though it wasn't supposed to go global, the fact that the company stood behind it, didn't take it down, and leaned into it for me was like, this is incredible.
Negative, positive, net, positive, right?
Just went with it. Yep.
That's
Yeah, I
awesome.
mean, that campaign won many Cannes Lions. It sparked a whole real-time marketing, which I've always called right-time marketing movement. But I think the biggest impact is that brands leaned a bit more into purpose and socially conscious issues in ways that they hadn't previously. Some did, but this really made it more mainstream. And even in the face of some resistance
Mm-hmm.
globally, there was almost like we're doing this. And yeah, I mean, you should be
What
proud of
year
it.
was this?
It was a great moment.
What year was
2012.
this?
It was the
It was
summer of
2012.
2012.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So over
Early,
10 years
early
ago.
days.
That's
Yeah.
yeah, that is early. Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. I love that story.
Yeah, it's a good one. And by the way, just because I want to make sure, like, a massive team effort, right? Like, it was like the first sort of like what we call them, the press, not the press rooms, but like the command center kind
War
of approach,
rooms.
war rooms and all that stuff. Yeah, like that was really the beginning of all that. It was an
You're not
incredible
coming
team
to us
effort.
live from the El Pollo Loco social media war room, Gabe?
I am not. Well, unless you call my office second bedroom here in LA, the war room. Yeah.
So another thing that Oreo started, and maybe not started, but maybe made much bigger, was this idea of brand collaborations. You remember in social media early on, brands were
Hmm.
talking to each other. Some still do, and it doesn't maybe have as much resonance. But this is the week, the month, the summer of Barbie and the collaborations. It's
Hmm.
impossible to miss, I'm sure in LA, here in New York, certainly. So collaborations are all the rage these days. Are there any dream collaborations that you would love to work on with El Pollo Loco?
Ooh, that is a great question.
And you can't say
Um,
Barbie.
I will not say Barbie. No. Um, oh man, I feel okay. So yes. So I don't know if you guys have heard this story, but so when Brad Pitt moved to LA, one of his first jobs was at El Pollo Loco, and he wore the
No.
El Pollo Loco like mascot. Like so, he was the chicken. He was the pollo, and
That
so
is Loco.
that is right. And
I did
so
not know
I
that.
have this I have this pipe dream that like we put together a spot and it's like a nod to our history, but then like the hat comes off and it's just Brad Pitt for
Yes.
like a split second and then that's it. And then you cut and that's it. End of commercial or
Oh,
something like that.
that's all right. Brad Pitt, if you're listening.
He might be.
So
He might be, guys. I'm not gonna
so
lie.
not quite a brand collaboration, but that would be amazing.
It's a
I
Brad
will say,
collaboration.
yeah, it's a Brad collaboration.
Oh,
Exactly.
I
Well
love a
done.
good play on words. That was
It's not a
great.
conversation with Matt without a good pun, you know? Um, I will say though, one of the things that I want to do and I'm hoping we can do is collaborate with a lot of those, excuse me, a lot of those brands that I talked about that are here in LA. There are some phenomenal small business owners, entrepreneurs that are of
Absolutely.
Mexican or indigenous descent that are just doing incredible things in both fashion and food and otherwise. That I think if we're going to be honest about ourselves about truly being about Mexican culture and using that as an opportunity to engage consumers, we have to work with these folks or figure out ways to support them. And so that's what I'm excited to figure out how to do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. What would you do if you were not doing this?
Honestly, I guess there'd be a couple things. And so I'm going to say not doing marketing, just like not doing marketing. The
Hmm.
first would be a teacher. I I really really loved, I still do love history, in particular American history. Um, I was the kid who was like just consuming Stephen Ambrose books when I was in high school, and just all that stuff. Loved Band of Brothers, big World War II guy. So I
Yeah.
could see myself being a history teacher. I really really enjoyed that. And if not that, I've always wanted to have my own venue of some sort. So whether it's a restaurant or coffee shop with some sort of live music component, a place where, frankly, I can do a lot of almost what I'm doing with El Pollo Loco of like inviting people into my home and like saying, "You're home now. Like this is your space." Like, and having that sense of community, I've always really enjoyed that since I was a kid. I'm Cuban, so for me, like family, just everything's always around the kitchen and around food and music's playing, and I loved that environment. And so being able to recreate that for other folks it would be a dream.
Well, this is really like I've never met you before, Gabe. This has been such a joy. I feel like those responses are very in line with this wonderful disposition that you give off and, and the kindness that you give off. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you so
I
much.
mean,
It's
it
a pleasure
also
meeting you too, Valerie.
the idea of creating some degree of hospitality as something that you would aspire to if you were not doing this is I didn't know that, but really it reinforces. I mean, Valerie just met you. I've known you for over a decade, but you've always made people around you feel good. You've made us feel good in this podcast. But we're about to, in our final minutes together,
Uh
maybe make you feel a little uncomfortable with our lightning round, which we
Okay.
call Gone in 60 Seconds. So, what I'm going
Love
to
it.
do, I am going to put 60 seconds on the imaginary clock. I'm going to ask you six questions that you have not heard, not been prepared for, and you answer however you'd like. Are you ready for that?
Real quick before you go, just because Gone in 60 Seconds, one of my favorite movies, 1968 Mustang is like my dream car. So just so
You
you
want
know.
a Shelby, a Cobra? Is that's your dream car?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was not one of the questions, but that was a bonus tidbit. That was
There you
a
go.
little chicken nugget right there for you.
There you go. I love that. I love that.
This is Gone in 60 Seconds.
What is the craziest, weirdest, or grossest thing you've ever eaten?
Oh, craziest thing I've ever eaten. Um, raw clams from the Jersey Shore.
Okay, that caveat makes it even crazier. So that is a great answer.
Yeah.
Uh, and you're still here to talk about it, so I think
I
that's a
am.
win. Chalk it up. This past weekend, I actually found a strand of hair in a dish at a restaurant that was clearly not mine.
Mm.
If you find a hair in your food at a restaurant, what are you supposed to do? Eat around it and say nothing? Send it back? Demand your money back? What's the right answer here?
I mean, I feel like the right answer is send it back because they need to know that there's hair in their food. But if I'm going to be honest, if it's nothing that bothers me or if it's like off to the side, I'll probably just take it out and be like, ugh, and then keep eating because I just can't be bothered with the confrontation. So,
Okay, professional answer and personal answer. I like them both.
yeah.
You mentioned you grew up on the East Coast. Now you're a West Coast kid. So I have to ask, Biggie or Tupac?
Oh, still Biggie. I'm still an East Coaster. Let's go.
Hell
Okay, and
yeah.
you just got married, what, a year or so ago? Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
What was the song that you danced to as your first dance?
Uh, oh my God. It was an Elvis song. Can't Help Falling in Love. Is that what
Okay.
it is? Yeah, Can't Help Falling in Love.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Thank you.
So two more questions. Okay. So El Pollo Loco has locations in California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, Colorado,
Texas,
even
Louisiana.
Louisiana.
Hmm.
But like, what's your problem in New Mexico?
I mean, who knows? Maybe.
Okay. TBD New Mexico for our listener in New Mexico. It might be coming. And then the last question, as a marketer, are you allowed to share with us, or I don't know, maybe do you even know what made the chicken go crazy in the first place?
I mean, I'll say this. I feel like Latinos in general got a little bit of crazy in them, so it's the way that we cook our food. It's crazy. We cook it slow, you eat it fast, it's delicious, and everybody likes a little bit of crazy.
Crazy
You know what I
good,
mean?
right?
Yeah,
Crazy good.
it's crazy good. Yeah.
You know what was crazy good, Gabe? It's you.
Oh,
So
stop.
thank you for being with us. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. I am
Thank you.
eager and now hungry to get back to the West Coast as quickly as possible for a
Same.
6-hour marinated citrus chicken.
Please. Food's on me. When you guys come, you have to let me know, and we'll make sure we get you to your restaurant, get you guys some good stuff.
Well, that certainly was a meaty conversation. Seems like a good time to go grab something to eat. Thanks to Gabe for his time with us on the Snarketing Podcast. If you missed any of our earlier episodes, they can be found on our Snarketing Podcast page here on this channel. And until next time, take care and stay snarky.